Today, those experiments are sparking outrage and raising health and ethical questions. Alaska's U.S. Senator Frank Murkowski wants the government to investigate.
There's no evidence in the report to suggest whether they knew what they were receiving, nor was there any follow-up. And that is a cancer-causing radioactive component, and the implication of people being used as human guinea pigs is something that we simply got to find the answer to.
I'm not sure that rounding up some very illiterate people in rural areas and asking them to participate in a medical experiment when they don't really understand what medicine is going to get anywhere close to qualifying as an informed consent.
Dr. Corey Rodal ran the experiment. He lives in Norway now, and speaking by telephone, he continues to defend the 40-year-old tests on the Alaska natives as perfectly safe.
I wouldn't call the iodine-131 dose radiation. I mean, it's a small amount. They were probably exposed to much more radiation from the Russian bomb.
Specifically, Russian atomic bomb tests, which explains the U.S. government's extreme interest in Arctic living conditions.
This was in 1950 to 1957, at the time when the Cold War was at its coldest, and the shortest distance between America and Russia was across the North Polar Basin. And this was before their rockets were available, so that they were flying military airplanes in the air all the time with atomic weapons, and they were concerned about the crews if they had to go down on the ice so they would survive until they could retrieve the bombs and so on.
If war comes again, military authorities agree the strategic center will be the North Pole.
And therefore, we felt that if we could make a study of the Eskimos to find out how they got along, we could perhaps learn from them so that we could do the same as they do.
Ironically, this battle of the Cold War was fought in a place that was not yet one of the United States. Alaska at the time was still a territory. Many natives had little contact with the outside, and most spoke no English. Even today, many of these American Eskimos continue to lead simple lives and are surprised that their trust in the U.S. government was violated.
If he tell me I don't understand him anyway that time, I can speak in English, where I don't even understand in English that time. I should say only, yeah, that's all I speak in English that time, I guess.
In her native Nunavut language, a female elder, Dora Hugo, recalls taking pills at the nearby Air Force camp.
I remember getting the test, but I don't recall what was the study for.
4 decades ago, the Air Force doctors won Native cooperation by impressing the village leaders. They used a bit of 20th century medical magic.
We had with us a portable X-ray machine which generated enough X-rays so that we could take an X-ray picture of the chief's head with his brain and everything showing. And he was so impressed, of course, that he joined us immediately. And we were then permitted to live with them, share everything with them, and make a very thorough study of their metabolism, their nutrition, behavior, hunting, and all this sort of thing.
These people were still nomadic hunters and gatherers as recently as the 1950s. So at the time the researchers were coming in here, in the early 1950s, these people were just beginning to settle down. Formerly they lived in caribou skin tents and moss houses and traveled through the mountains by dog team and sled in the winter and on foot with pack dogs in the summer. So they're intelligent people, but they certainly weren't sophisticated in the ways of the Western world.
Clearly the government did break a trust because those people were willing to go through these procedures, and the government really owed them an obligation to follow through, and that's what we've got to address now.
A follow-up today to the Air Force study will be difficult. As many as half of the natives may have died since the 1950s experiment. No one knows whether the tests themselves may have caused the Alaska natives to suffer medical ailments, because the government never went back for a second look. We do know that 17 Caucasian soldiers received the same doses as the natives. But unlike the native Alaskans, the white soldiers knew what they were taking. Results of the medical experiment show Alaskan natives had no genetic advantage in coping with the cold. In the end, these healthy natives had unknowingly been exposed to radioactive material by the U.S. government that had pledged to protect them. Guinea pigs of the Cold War. Greg Lefebvre, CNN Special Reports, Arctic Valley, Alaska.